Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much to our hosts that have invited us to this wonderful event, NCyTE. We very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. So very encouraging to see the interest and that it spans from community colleges to universities to students to governmental entities to nonprofits. That is very exciting to see. We are very excited to tell you all about ABET and about how ABET sets the gold standard in quality assurance when it comes to education. Actually, it's the reason that I personally, 9 months ago, decided to come to ABET from two other STEM associations. And so I'm very pleased to be joined with my boss, who is our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer, Jessica Silwick. She has an incredible background, and my role in the organization is a Senior Manager of Professional Programs. Both of us come to you today with a career-long focus on global education, on lifelong learning, and quality assurance. So, as I understand from NCyTE, the things that you may or may not know about is possibly you have some exposure to ABET, but maybe don't know exactly who ABET is. Well, we're here to talk about that today. We want to make sure you walk away with understanding why ABET has existed and is the gold standard in quality assurance for close to 100 years. And we're going to then get into the types of quality assurance services that ABET provides. The one that we've historically been known for, that we've been doing the longest, is accreditation. But we also have some education courses ourselves that we offer, faculty and others, and that's our professional programs quality assurance service. And our latest quality assurance service is our recognition of credentials service, and that's an independent review of credentials. And that's hot off the market, so you're going to be some of the first to hear about it. And we look forward to your comments and your questions at the end because this is new and it's exciting. And I think that ABET is just perfectly primed to be that quality assurance independent review organization. Why we offer the credential recognition program, why we're offering it, will also be discussed. And just the kind of the basics and the business model and the actual program itself, define that for you a little bit. And we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. So Jessica is going to take over from here and tell you a little bit about our organization.
Hi, thanks, Melanie. Thank you for the warm introduction and welcome. And it is my honor to be here today, being able to share a little bit more about ABET, who we are as an organization. I'm going to make the assumption that there are some of you in the room who are very aware of ABET and know who we are, and some of you that may be hearing our name for the first time. So I'm going to start explaining who we are at a very high level. And what ABET is a quality assurance organization with a primary focus in STEM learning opportunities. We are here we exist to serve the learners first and foremost. And then we believe that those learners are individuals who are going to be the problem solvers of tomorrow. And through our quality assurance services, we assure confidence in those who are going to go out there and solve the grand challenges that we face as a global community. And we do this through our quality assurance services to be able to say that they are receiving a quality education that has all of the parameters necessary for them to be successful professionals in STEM fields. Now, on paper, ABET is a nonprofit, non-governmental, ISO 9001-2015 certified organization. As Melanie mentioned, we have three primary services. That is accreditation, recognition of credential, and continuing education, learning opportunities for professionals. But really, if I were to say who we are as an organization, we are our network of 1,000 plus volunteers globally. Our volunteers are our heart and soul of ABET. They are the independent third-party evaluators who perform the reviews for our quality assurance services. They are also individuals who help with the governance of ABET as an organization. And there are also individuals that come from our 35 plus member professional member societies who help craft and develop our standards and criteria. So if anyone is interested in becoming an ABET volunteer, please let me know. They really are the heart and soul, and they do this because they are as passionate about our purpose as ABET staff is. I will just let you see this slide as Melanie clicks through the various quality assurance services. We're going to go into great detail with these. So Melanie, you can go right past this slide. Again, just another slide to reemphasize that we are a nonprofit. We cease to exist to create quality assurance for STEM learning opportunities globally. We do this through our many partnerships around the world. Just most recently, we signed a partnership with the African Educators Organization, and we're going to work to improve STEM education in Africa. We also do this through global partnerships through the International Engineering Alliance, the World Engineering Educators Forum, as well as the International Educators for STEM advancement, and many, many, many more. That's just to name a few. So again, here's that. How does ABET provide quality assurance? I'm going to start with what we are best known for. ABET was created by our three founding member societies to be able to provide accreditation quality assurance services, primarily in engineering area. We have since grown into computing, applied and natural science, and engineering technology professions for accreditation. So what is accreditation of academic programs? We accredit programs so that students, employers, and society alike can be confident that any program that has ABET's accreditation standard meets that quality, high quality standards that produce graduates who are prepared to enter a global workforce and prepared both technically as well as possessing those soft skills and the ability to communicate, to be empathetic, and to work in teams. So what do we accredit specifically? So accreditation ceases to exist to serve academic programs leading to specific degree. So that can be a 2 or a 4-year degree for ABET accreditation. We do not accredit institutions. We don't accredit schools, faculty, facilities. We don't accredit graduates. We don't even accredit the degrees per se. We accredit the programs. So if you have a computer science program, that's a 4-year degree, or you have a cybersecurity program, that is a 2-year degree. ABET has criteria by which that has been created by your peers to evaluate your program to see if it meets the quality standards that have been set essentially by professionals in your specific fields of study. Go to the next slide, please, Melanie. We have thousands of people worldwide who contribute to the accreditation of 2- and 4-year degreed programs because they see the value and the necessity in having it. It shows that we have that every program has a strong commitment to quality education, that there are components within that program that have continuous improvement aspect. So we want to make sure that any program that's accredited by ABET has a very strong continuous improvement process in place that is emphasized around the assessment of student learning. And we want to know what is learned versus what is taught. And that's why we have an outcomes-based approach to how we do it. So the value of ABET accreditation is in our tried and true processes and criteria that has been carefully crafted um, to show that we are not coming in and just counting books. We're not coming in and counting head count of faculty and looking at your facilities and your budget. We want to know what your students are learning. Do you know what your students are learning? And are you taking that data to then make continuous quality improvements to your programs, as well as do you have the right courses? Do you have the right math courses? Do you have the right science courses that are necessary to create a well-rounded professional? Now I'm going to get into, and I'm happy at any time, either the live Q&A or offline, to answer any questions that you may have about accreditation. I just needed to give a very high level explanation in the time given. The next quality assurance service, though, that ABET has is our ABET professional programs. This is a continuing education arm within ABET, if you may, designed for professionals as well as faculty members at either higher learning institutions or continuing education opportunities. So we deliver transformative, high quality learning experiences. We like to believe, and we have been developed these learning opportunities so that they foster innovation, that they encourage collaboration and partnership, whether it be within your program, within your specific learning opportunity, and individuals in other areas within your organization as well. And we believe that that all will foster a environment of innovation and instill confidence in the educators and the learners. And like I said, we primarily do this through teaching educators the best practices in the assessment of student learning. So do you know what your students are learning? Do you know where you can do better? Do you know how you can reach more students? And our workshops and this have been very successful. We provide best practices. We also provide opportunities to become a leader within your organization to be able to drive your continuous improvement processes. Another way that we do this is through our ABET annual symposium. Every year we pick a theme for our symposium. This year's theme is connecting with purpose and how it advances innovation through partnership. In previous years, we've had cybersecurity as a theme, actually, a few years ago. Most recently, of course, we had artificial intelligence, like everyone else is doing right now, a few years ago. So we're really excited about the theme this year because we really think that this is an important theme or topic that's going to continue to drive collaboration and innovation into the future. The symposium has several sessions, tracks. So there is an accreditation track, a recognition of credentials track, and an assessment of student learning track, along with a track of sessions that focus on the particular theme for that year. We also offer on free to anyone. You can go online and we have assessment of student learning resources and tools. So we have tools that can be used to help design, demonstrate, and evaluate sustainable assessment processes. We also have articles that have been written by ABET experts in this field. And I want you to understand that the assessment of student learning resources that we offer are not geared towards ABET accredited programs. It's for anyone who is in a position to teach learners. You know, they can all benefit from the resources that we have to be able to implement quality within their learning opportunities. We also, within our tools, have webinars that are free. Again, anyone can go and click on a webinar and hear what our experts have to say in the area of continuous quality improvement. We also have forms that we offer or matrix that you can download and use to either directly use within your learning program or if you wanted to use it to help you model something of your own. And again, this is just another example of the articles that we have in the different topics. So there's everything from surveys and questions to using the course or test grades for program assessment. Things I wish I had known, that's actually a very popular, and it really reaches a diverse group of educators. Lastly, one of our most longest running and most popular learning opportunities that we provide is our Institute for the Development of Excellence in Assessment Leadership. Again, anyone can attend this. This is a 4-day immersive, interactive, in-person workshop that at the end of the day produces leaders. So we start off on day one of going over the fundamentals of assessing student learning. Into day two, we reinforce fundamentals. We start to get into a little bit more of advanced topics. And then by day 3 and 4, we're looking at how you take everything that you've just learned and be able to then go back to either your campus or learning organization and really be able to incite and encourage your colleagues to be part of this continuous improvement process with you. So now I've gone over the first 2 ways in which ABET inspires and delivers quality through our accreditation, our direct accreditation through 2 and 4-year degree programs, through our continuing education opportunities for educators to be able to develop their own quality improvement within their organizations, as well as assessing what their learners are retaining and how to reach more learners. Our newest and the one that we're most excited about is our recognition of credentials. The credential space has been expanding exponentially over the past 5 years or so. Credential learning opportunities in the form of certificates, badges, or what may have is here to stay as far as ABET is concerned. It is a very essential component of lifelong learning. It's creating pathways for non-traditional learners. It's also creating opportunities to fill skill gaps as well as placing people in roles and positions that are essential to us as a society and to keep up with the pace of innovation. So ABET did not feel like we would be doing our service to society if we did not offer a quality assurance service in these learning opportunities because of the essential role that they're playing in society right now. And Melanie has been helping to lead this endeavor for us at ABET, and now I'm going to let her talk to you all about the recognition of credentials in more detail.
Thank you, Jessica. As Jessica said, we really are the right player in the global market in the world of credentials to set the standard, the gold standard for a quality assurance service in the market. She also mentioned that this is an ever evolving growth area in the education space. Education is being disrupted as we previously have known it historically. 10 years ago, it's not the same today. Things are changing and evolving, and learners are expecting more and different things, and employers are expecting more and different things. And one of the avenues that are addressing some of the needs and the desires of learners and employers is this concept of short form type of education, pocket type training through certificates, badges, micro credentials. You'll hear many different names, certificates, but all of them, they're different names and labels, but it's maybe alternative career pathways, new ways to get education and to have the skills and the abilities that are needed for specific jobs in a learner or an employee's, I guess, career. So we are the right player for this. We've been doing quality assurance for close to 100 years, as we started off the presentation saying. And ABET has a reputation that is stellar in the way of quality. So Let's talk a little bit specifically about the why. As we mentioned, credentials are here to stay, and they are at fast, rapidly approaching growth and significant growth, and to the point where it's really hard to determine as a learner or an employer what is quality education versus not quality education when it comes to credentials or certificates or badges. Really very confusing for the learner and the employer. And this is why there is a need to make sure that we are ensuring that there is confidence in these credentials that we can trust and help us to navigate this very crowded and difficult landscape. The other thing about credentials is that they need to be mobile, right? The learner doesn't want to take, let's say, some courses that lead to a certificate or a credential that is only good for, 6 months or one job. Maybe for their career, they'd like to be able to say through their entire transcript that this was portable and it moved with them throughout their career, and it actually helped them in other positions or helped them get a promotion, for example. So mobility is very important, and we want to make sure that if an employee or a learner earns a credential, that they've actually earned it, and they earned a quality credential as opposed to a credential that did not assess learning outcomes, for example. Um, Again, ABET is the gold standard, and it's accepted globally as the gold standard for quality assurance. And so having a recognition of credential standard behind these new review services by ABET means something, not only to the learner, the employer, the credential offerer, for funding organizations like NSF and others that are providing funds to provide funding for education opportunities. All of these different stakeholder groups are wanting to make sure that what they're earning or their funding is something of quality. So we actually went through a pilot phase for several years, and a couple of years, and we intentionally chose a nonprofit organization in STEM, ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, a for-profit organization, Siemens, and Purdue Online, a university. So we did this intentionally because all three of those types of organizations are focused on developing and delivering credentials. And so that's what this recognition of credentials service, quality assurance service is intended for, is those stakeholder groups. And there may be more that we find out. If you offer credentials, then this service is basically for you. So there were a lot of lessons learned and a lot of testimonials that came from the pilot experience with these institutions. And I can say that in general, that for example, ASCE, they mentioned that they really enjoyed the actual the evaluation process because they said it was lean but very thorough. If you compare it to accreditation, the credentials process from start to finish is less than 6 months, whereas accreditation is 18 months to go through that quality assurance review process. So ASCE felt it was very thorough, but yet lean. And also that there were peer-to-peer experts that it helped them to actually create their own quality assurance, improve their own quality assurance processes and procedures, and they made changes based upon the recommendations that came out of those reviews. And Siemens, for example, actually said that they learned how to better design future credential courses to be more transparent for learners. And transparency is a big thing with this service because when these peers and these experts, volunteer ABET volunteers that are experts in quality assurance, go through the process with that credential offerer, they're looking to see, did that credential program actually deliver what was promised to the learner? Very key and essential to the review process. And Siemens recognized that that was a key benefit of this particular service. And then Purdue actually started immediately implementing new continuous improvement processes that they didn't have originally in their procedures. And they saw a difference in the improvement of the quality of the program as a whole. One other thing I want to mention on this slide is the focus is for non-degreed programs. That doesn't mean that a learner can't take a credential and that it might lead to an entry point into a degree program, but the focus is on alternative career pathways. Maybe it's a learner who actually decided I don't want to go for 4 years to get a degree. I want to maybe take a couple of courses and see if I really like this subject, and if I think I'm good at it and I like it, maybe that would lead into a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or maybe I continue to take a bunch of credentials and I seek employment opportunities that fit those specific credentials that I've successfully earned. And then it's important to know that we have a flexible format. The actual service itself, once a credential offer and a credential is actually earned, it is valid for the recognition itself for 3 years. But there may be a mid-cycle review in case things have changed, and the credential offer would attest to that. So I mentioned it's a 3-year cycle and approximately a 6-month or less process to go through to have your credentials reviewed. And that's really important because credentials, especially in cybersecurity and AI and technology type subject matters in credentials, they change so rapidly that we needed a very nimble process. And so ABET heard that, and they're responding by making sure that while it's much more expeditious to go through the process than, say, accreditation, it's definitely not any less thorough when it comes to the standard. And again, the emphasis is on quality, high requirement that the credential program possess quality from the design phase all the way to the deployment of that credential program. All right, so let's talk briefly about the process. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through these a bit expeditiously. So the first thing is, if there's a credential offerer who is interested, there are some prerequisites that they need to ensure or in place before they go to apply, but they would submit an application for their credential program. And assuming that application was accepted, and it was approved, then the next step would be that they complete what's called, in ABET world, a self-assessment report. And in that report, you're getting much more specific about the structure of the credential and are there checks within the system to ensure that if you're bringing on third-party organizations to design or develop those credentials, is there a vetting for quality of those third parties? Is there continuous improvement built within the process, et cetera? So you're learning more about the credential complexities as well as the overall structure of the credential and the quality built within. And then once this self-assessment report is submitted by the credential offer, there is a ABET volunteer team of expert reviewers who get together and they compare that credential offerer's report, self-assessment report, directly to the recognition of credentials standard. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about our standard. And then there'll be some questions that may be asked. So maybe that we need further clarity on what was written in that report, the self-assessment report, and how it does or does not apply to the standard. So there's dialogue between the credential offer and the review team. Then there's a determination ultimately, and either the credential itself is completely compliant with the recognition of credentials standard or it is not. And if it is compliant, then the recognition determination is made that ABET will recognize that particular credential or credentials. So we mentioned standards. What are the types of questions or things we're looking for when that standard was built to ensure the type of quality we are looking to assess and hopefully recognize in a credential program. The first thing we're looking for is, and I mentioned this earlier, does the credential actually deliver what it promised in the marketing, the collateral, the website, the syllabus, all of those things? Do they deliver what was promised to the learner? Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't do that, then it's not that credential program may need to go back and retool and look at the learning outcomes and the continuing education goals, the credential education goals, to make sure that the content is designed and deployed in a way that can say yes to this question. Another thing that we're looking for is, are those educational goals and learning outcomes actually, as advertised, being met? And are they very clear to the learner? And are they transparent to the learner? I mentioned this earlier, I believe, with when we have other players, whether they be internal or external as a credential provider, what we're looking for is we want to make sure that those designers and developers and the individuals, if it's live training, or let's say it's synchronous online training, that those presenters actually have the skill sets, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to do an outstanding, stellar job as an expert in those fields. So that's another thing that the standard's trying to address. And then, of course, last but definitely not least, are the continuous improvement processes embedded from cradle to grave when the program was being developed. And this is just a snapshot. There's more to it than this, because it really, we have to look at the credentials and the way it is made up and how complex it is or not complex it is. There are no two credentials that look alike. We've learned that through the pilot. It is truly the Wild West when it comes to the types of credentials and how they're structured. Even the names, as we said, are different that people call them. So this is just a snapshot of the basic fees, but there are others. And if there is an interest in anyone on the call in investigating this further, we're happy to have a consultative call with you to better understand the structure of your credential and give you more specifics about the pricing model. But on average, it's $500 application fee. And then to actually progress to the point where we're doing a review for that particular credential or credentials, it's $2,100 average per credential. And any other fees may apply on the structure based on the complexity. Jessica, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No, I think you did a great job of just explaining the overview of the fees. I think the application fee, it is an application that you have to fill out to see whether or not you have a credential that has a chance of meeting our standards. So we don't want credentials to just put in a request for a review, pay the 2,100, and then find out that there was no way that they would have had anything in place to be able to meet our standards. Along with the application fee, you get some feedback. So if we do not feel like you're ready, we'll give you some feedback as to why and what we think you can do to then reapply and eventually become recognized. So there is a little bit of advising, and then as well as you would receive access to our standards along with the application fee as well. So it's not just simply an application fee. There's some advising to that, and also direct access to our standards, which we are not currently making public. The review fee is per credential. One thing that is not stated is that there is additional fee that you would pay for stackables. So let's say you had a certificate with multiple stackables underneath, you would not have to pay that 2,100 for each and every credentialed learning opportunity that you wanted to have recognized. You would pay that 2,100 and then a minimal additional fee for each of the stackables. That would also result in ABET recognition. So you would have multiple learning opportunities that have been recognized by ABET. And then we also have smaller fees that I think it's maybe like $200 that are something very minimal. We consider a large credential fee. So if you have a credential with that's multiple semesters long, that can build into a graduate degree, and there's multiple checks for understandings and labs incorporated with it. It's going to take more time for us to review. There's more data that we're going to need to assess, and so as such, we attach on an additional minimal fee for us to be able to invest the resources into your review.
Thank you, Jessica. So to end the process, once a credential is deemed to be approved to be recognized, the credential offerer will receive for each of the credentials or credential that has been submitted and has been approved these logos, and they can display it in multiple places and in multiple ways. And with the logos themselves, a style and usage guide would be provided to the credential offer, which further explains to the credential offer where and how and when these logos can be displayed to promote your successful achievement. So we love the logos. We think they're beautiful. Hopefully you do too. And we've got the bright orange and gray and white colors that ABET is known for. So this is a big achievement. It's not a small thing, and the credential offer should be proud of reaching this success of being recognized. And also, speaking of which, displaying and being proud of recognizing your successful achievement of recognition with ABET as the gold standard. We just wanted to show you briefly that this is where Siemens shows that they value the process that they went through the recognition of credentials quality assurance service by right on their website displaying very proudly their accomplishment. And then it shows that they have been recognized. And then also they like to tout, because it's true, that they were the world's first ABET recognized credential provider. So we're very proud of them. They went through a lot to get there, and they deserve it. And then there's also some, I guess, sub pages beyond that, other pages that go into more detail about the value of the ABET recognition that Siemens states on their website. So that's from the academic point of view, and I'm sorry, from the for-profit point of view. And Purdue, from the academic point of view, also proudly displays and mentions that they have achieved the ABET recognition of credentials for their actually artificial intelligence micro credentials. And they are in the same space as probably a lot of you on the call today. So again, they recognize, and they actually have testimonials that they've written and published in different articles in different ways to say what a rewarding experience it was. And they've actually seen an increase in students and in student enrollments in these credentials as well. So it's been a great partnership, and we have really truly enjoyed and learned a lot from Purdue and Siemens and ASCE through the pilot process. So what's next? What's on the horizon? Well, we did our first round of reviews after the pilots were completed this October, and we are in the process right now of reviewing these. We've assigned CEV teams that's an acronym, that they're the credential evaluators, that are the experts that review these self-assessment reports and these credentials for all the things we've talked about. And that's in the process and underway now. We are now accepting applications officially for the next 3 review cycles. There's 4 per year, once a quarter. And we'd like to have you submit your credential for review if it meets the prerequisite criteria, which, by the way, is on our ABET website. And I've got the website URL in the next slide, I believe, so that you can take note of it and learn more about that. And then, of course, the decisions will be rendered to the credential offerers that provide these credentials quarterly. All right, so if you would like to stay in touch and you do have an interest, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to a website where you can actually start the process of A, reading the prerequisite requirements, and B, also assuming you feel like you have do meet the prerequisite requirements, then you would actually click on a link to actually start the online application. And if there's any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions. A lot of institutions have reached out to us before actually applying because they weren't sure if they met the prerequisite requirements or not. And we'd be happy to have a dialogue with you about that. And our website specifically for the recognition of credentials service is, as you can see, www.abet.org/recognition. And if you have any specific questions related to recognition of credentials, this is our main email address, and those questions get answered as they come in. So without any other without any further ado, we're going to open it up to questions and answers, unless, Jessica, you have any other final comments you'd like to make before we open it up to Q&A.
No. I think we're good to go in the Q&A. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right. So let's see. I'm going to have to go to the top of this.
I haven't seen any questions come up yet.
Wow. Let's see. Okay, let's see. No, I don't see any either.
There's a question from Jessica. I'm sorry. It's a question from Matthew Swenson. Do you not see it?
Is that the one? I believe I just answered it in the chat. Sorry, I was answering it while Melanie was still presenting, so that I could reply directly to the chat. But this question relates to the value of accreditation of two-year programs specifically, and the associate degree programs. And this is obviously not something that we've been questioned about or have heard in the past. And we find the value just in the value of ensuring quality, and we're passionate about quality. So we've always seen the value in having the same quality standards for two-year programs, because they are just as essential of learning instruments as the four-year degree programs, and the learners deserve the best. But that said, we've seen an increasing requests from industry. So ABET has an industry advisory council made up of various large and small STEM-based industry organizations in the United States. And we've, over the past, it's been at least six or 7 years now, have gotten increasing pressure to accredit more two-year programs. And also the recognition of credential service actually gave birth out of our industry advisory council. They're hiring, traditional hiring for a lot of roles was four-year degrees, and that's not the case anymore, especially with the advances in technology. And they're looking for they want people to fill spots who have very specific skill sets for a very specific role within their organization. So they've came to us and said it would be great if ABET could accredit more two-year degree programs as well as credential offerings, so we could rest assured that there's some quality standards, and that the graduates or the earners of the credentials are coming out with a certain level of understanding and in being able to show an aptitude for retaining that knowledge. So, we basically said we are doing our best to be able to provide a resource that fits the needs very specifically of the two-year programs as well as the credential providers. So we are doing our work to deliver the value proposition for ABET accreditation and the recognition. But I can tell you, we also have a strategic priority right now to where we are looking at our two-year accreditation model and making sure that it, maybe there's opportunities to improve it to continue to meet the very specific needs that two-year programs have that are very different from the needs of our traditional four-year programs.
So Jessica, we have a couple questions in the chat. One is there benefit to starting small through the ROC process and having that build toward a degree accreditation later on, or are there two distinctly different and separate processes?
There is a degree of benefit to starting out with the recognition of credential. So recognition of credential has standards, whereas accreditation has criteria. So there's more differences than just the term that we use to label them. And the recognition standards are modeled very well. It's a hybrid, I would say, of ABET criteria as well as like what you would see globally as considered more like ISO standards. So within the recognition of credentials, there's a continuous quality improvement standard within the recognition of credentials. So we want to know that you have a meaningful, documented, continuous quality improvement process that's embedded within your learning opportunity. We won't tell you what it should look like. We won't tell you how to do it. You just have to be able to explain it to us and show us how you're using it and how it's working for you. For a lot of people, becoming ABET accredited, that is the biggest obstacle for them in the 2 and 4 year space, is having that continuous quality improvement process embedded as part of their program. So starting out at the recognition level and learning about, incorporating it at that level, learning what evaluators are going to look for in when it comes to specifically into that standard. We've seen a lot of feedback to where, wow, it'd be really great for me to come in, go through the process of being evaluated under ABET standards for my credential, learning a little bit about that and feeling a much more secure about then building the quality system needed within my 2 or 4 year program to be able to get ABET accredited. So there is value in that. That being said, I don't believe that our accreditation processes are anyone can be accredited, to tell you the truth. And a lot of people don't realize that they have a lot of measures in place already. It's just a matter of compiling it, putting it all together, being able to explain it, and then maybe making some additions as needed. And I think that going through the recognition process, though, does kind of get you into that mind frame at a much smaller scale, so that when you're ready and you need to encourage other members of your faculty to embark upon accreditation, then there at least is some familiarity. And you can also be able to tout that you're ABET recognized. And I do know our PEVs would let's see value in that. And I'm using an acronym. We have acronyms too. It's Program Evaluator. They are the volunteers that review for accreditation. And then we have Credential Evaluators, CEVs, that are recognition evaluators. And there is some overlap in that evaluator pool.
So we got quite a few other questions in the chat. This one is a quick one. Is there such a thing as too small, too short of a credential for this new ROC review process?
Now, we recognize that credentials come in all shapes and sizes. Our standards, though, is it doesn't matter how short it is or how long it is. If you can show that it's quality and you're able to deliver that quality in the manner that your subject matter experts believe is sufficient, then you would have a chance of qualifying to be reviewed for recognition. We do want to know there will be no credential will be recognized by ABET if there's not some sort of a check for understanding or an official way to test that the earners of your credential have obtained the knowledge transfer that's been delivered during that time.
So on a different note, what community colleges is in the process of developing a 4-year BS in computer science program. We're not ready to apply for accreditation just yet, but we are starting to investigate the process. What advice would you give folks like us who are exploring options?
A lot of people like to start with our symposium It's a 2-day conference that touches on all matters around accreditation. There are very specific accreditation sessions that you only get at our symposium, that a lot of them are like beginner. I'm thinking about being ABET accredited. Another big component of ABET accreditation is the self-study report that you have to create. And that really is like the meat of your evaluation when you go after accreditation. The evaluators look at that in detail when they are looking for compliance to our criteria, and then they go on your campus visit. They use that self-study. So where there were gaps or holes in the self-study that they still need to find to ensure compliance, they'll come on your campus visit and say, well, we couldn't find this evident in your self-study, so let's talk more about this. They conduct their interviews. We have a self-study development workshop that happens the day before our symposium. So a lot of people who are new to ABET accreditation will come to that so that they can learn how to write their self-study before they even apply to become accredited. A lot of people will also take advantage of either our deal or our fundamentals of program assessment workshop, just to make sure that their continuous improvement and their assessment of student learning is in a good place to be able to go for accreditation. And it's all about like kind of like closing the loop and things of that sort that you would learn in those workshops.
We have like 4 more comments, questions. Mike, I know you said that at the beginning, if it was a little longer than if
Yeah.
people wanted to stay on, should we keep answering the questions?
Yeah, I was going to say we are approaching 10 o'clock. I put the link out there for everybody to fill out the surveys. I appreciate everybody attending today. It's great turnout. Thank you, Jessica and Melanie, for giving us this presentation. And we'll stay on as long as folks have questions. We set this time aside. We know it ends at 10. We know some people have to leave. So I just want to say thanks before you guys take off. So let's continue with those questions.
Okay, oh geez, we have like 8 now. Wow, I love it. Love it.
Great group.
I know. Okay, Matthew Swinson, thank you for this webinar. You are most welcome, Matthew. We are excited to be here. I've noticed increasing interest in ABET accreditation within the NSF ATE community. For example, Associated of Applied Science and Applied Baccalaureate degree programs. In talking about ABET accreditation with my faculty colleagues, they're typically interested but unsure if it would be useful for their graduates to tell prospective employers that they graduated from an ABET accredited program. Most of our local STEM employers value ABET accreditation for traditional baccalaureate or graduate degree holders, like, for example, engineers. However, these employers aren't familiar with ABET accreditation for applied or associate programs, so it's not a clear asset for holders of these degrees to state that they're from ABET accredited programs. Is this a widespread issue? If so, I'd love to hear the presenter's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think Melanie, we already talked about this briefly, and
Okay.
then I also kind of addressed it in the chat. And like
Oh,
I said,
you did.
yeah, no,
I'm
it's fine. I
sorry.
didn't want to interrupt you, but I think it's something that we've heard. It's not a new concern or question. And like I said, we believe in it because we believe in quality, and quality should be delivered equally amongst 2 4-year and credentialed learning opportunities. But we have seen an increase in employers through our industry advisory council. And even, when we've talked to other employers at our conferences and ones that we collaborate with, an increased desire for the quality assurances to stretch into 2-year and credential, because they are hiring more candidates than they have in the past for maybe traditional roles that they would have only seeked out a 4-year degree candidate. They're now considering 2-year degreed and or people with specific skill sets from credential offerings.
Yeah, thank you. I got so excited when I saw 8 people. I was like, wow, okay. Does ABET work with only engineering or related programs? No, it's STEM. So science is in there as well, and computing. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Jessica, there.
Well, it's almost anything that's STEM related, to tell you the truth. I mean, accreditation, we even have general criteria. So if you've got an innovative new program that is maybe a hybrid of several fields of study and it's STEM related, ABET will take a look at that and see if we couldn't accredit it under our general criteria. So we have general criteria that anyone can apply to be reviewed under. And then we have our specific criteria. So we have data science right now. We have cybersecurity right now. We have safety criteria as well in our applied and natural science, field of study commission. So the answer is that if it's STEM related and you have a program that has been established and developed with at least one graduate, we'll consider it for accreditation.
Thank you. Ollie, thank you for sharing this information with us. Would you please share the steps we can begin internally, especially for cyber program, even before contacting you for completing the application? And the answer is yes. If you would like, you can send an email at the recognition@abet.org email address, and we'll send you a PDF of the application for you to look at, so that your team can then start getting your mind around what exactly information is going to be required up front. And then also, I would highly encourage you to go to the Recognition webpage, which we shared the link earlier today in this presentation, and look at, again, a little bit more details about what the program is, who it's for, who it's tailored for, and the prerequisite requirements that are on the website. That would be my recommendation. Let's see. Oh, hello, Melissa. We are at Laurel Ridge, have our AAS in cybersecurity ABET accredited and put it on their transcript. It has helped some to transfer to their BS programs due to the ABET, I guess, stamp of approval, and helps them to get interviews within the companies hiring engineers who they are used to seeing ABET accredited.
Thank you for sharing that.
And Costa says, thanks for the presentation. It was a good way to catch up with all the changes in the accreditation space. Mohammed says, thanks for the useful information. Have a good day, everyone. Let's see if there's any other questions.
I think that's it, Melanie. I think we've got it all.
All right, we're good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody's attention and your involvement, and let us know if we can help you in any way.
Thank you again for presenting this month. We really appreciate it. I think we had a lot of good questions and we had a lot of interest. So I'm glad you guys were able to do it. And it's nice meeting you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
for the
you.
opportunity.
Absolutely.
Take care.
All right, everybody have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Stay dry.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks.
You too.